My name is Jessica Reed. This is my Twitter, Kentucky Girl in Alabama. I am a certified trainer for Google for Education, and I'm also a certified innovator. And I'm part of the New York cohort that was back in October of this past year. And this is actually part of my project to talk about Google, or to talk about collaboration, all sorts of forms. So let's get started. All right, so who am I? I am an ELA resource teacher. So I am a middle school special ed teacher who works with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And I do the Georgia standards for ELA. We do writing. And I never thought I would be a middle school teacher, but I really enjoy middle school. It's my jam. I like my kids a lot. There's never a dull moment. But with my particular group of students, I have to have ways to make them engaged in my classroom because they just don't like to sit there and listen. So that's why I like to come up with some different ways to encourage them to, act or like be engaged in my classroom. All right, why Google? Google for us, we have just become a one-to-one school, and so with our Chromebooks, and so Google is very easy for us to use, and the students can use it. It can be used anywhere. So the location does not matter when working together, especially when the kids are trying to do projects or any of that type of learning. I do talk a little bit more about other things than Google, just FYI. Collaboration allows us to know more than we are capable of knowing by ourselves. This is true. We are just we're able to know things, but when you work together with someone, your knowledge expands and you just become that much better at whatever subject it is. And so that's what I hope to encourage with my students. All right. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about how collaboration is key, different Google applications for students and how to avoid frustration for all, and how to use it in my classroom. And while I'm sharing my ideas, please take what you can and apply it to your own classroom. Also, please remember that, I know, baby. I'm sorry if you can hear my daughter. Also remember that I'm coming from the SPED background, so I'm hoping that you can take the information and either apply it to whatever type of classroom you have, but maybe you're able to modify it for students who are gifted or even your middle of the road students. All right, like I said, collaboration is key. All right, collaboration is not a new concept in the classroom. As we increase in technology and PBL type activities, students need to be able to work with each other to achieve a goal. Collaboration does work for everyone. Sometimes your kids may not want to work together, but this is something that it's a life lesson for them. They're going to be stuck with people that they may not want to work with, but they have to be able to. And coming from the SPED perspective, it doesn't matter if a student receives any type of accommodation. Collaboration can help build relationships and understanding in the classroom. And if you have, good relationships with your students and they have relationships with one another, you're more worried about if the students are actually understanding the concept rather than behavior, which is what we want in the classroom. All right, here are just some different Google ideas, and these are different things that I actually do with my students, and they're great for collaboration. Using Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets and Forms, and then also Google Sites. All right, here are some ways that you can use Google Docs in a couple of different subject areas. So for ELA, students are able to create essays and they're able to edit each other's work by creating comments and providing authentic information to one another and being able to get that immediate feedback. One of my favorite things to do with my students at the beginning of the year is have them complete a Google Doc and watch their face when they don't realize that I am actually able to edit their document. and just it's neat to kind of see their responses where they're going, how did she do that? And then they realize what a cool tool it is. For another way in ELA, a lot of times you don't want to have your kids doing packets, but sometimes, having practice with reading comprehension paragraphs and answers is going to be necessary. And so students are able to work on these together. And they might even be able to use like the highlighter function to highlight main ideas and then have a discussion on the side comments. I also like it when you're creating essays that you're able to provide as a teacher information of like why they need to correct this or APA or any type of information based off of their based off of their resources and references, and are able to help them. For social studies, students can create an interactive study guide to be shared with one another with appropriate hyperlinks and activities. So this kind of gives the students a chance to be the teacher. And, in the classroom, students seem to work better together, or like they learn better from one another, such as peer-to-peer tutors. And so being able to have their own interactive study guide, it creates an opportunity for them to show what they know. And a lot of times they can find cooler activities than we can. So it's important to have them be a part of their own learning. For math, students can work on word problems in groups or even at home with you responding to their answers and providing feedback. In Georgia, I teach in Georgia, but I live in Alabama, and we a lot of times will have snow days. And so I think our district is eventually going to be going to, when we do have snow days, that the students will have some type of Chromebook or situation where they're able to work on homework, and the students can actually get help from your teacher. So kind of like maybe a little bit of a flipped classroom, but it wouldn't be something that would happen all the time. And so this would actually give you an opportunity, if the students are working on something, you can respond to them while everybody's at home. Also with word problems for math, for Google Docs, the students are now expected to be able to explain how they got their answer, not just 1 + 1 = 2. How do they actually get their answer and use the math vocabulary? And so this would give them a great way to start practicing that application. All right. All right, so Google Slides, this is one of my absolute favorites, and I actually really didn't know how to do a share deck until I got to do the innovator experience, because that's a lot of how we respond to each other. So you can create a share deck where each of the students is required for 1 to 3 slides based on the topic, and this allows for great group participation on a project, and then everyone presents their slides to class. I had my students do this recently back in October with Edgar Allan Poe for my 8th graders. We did the Telltale Heart, and I broke down the poem into different stanzas, and then each student was responsible for 2 stanzas, and they interpreted it to what they thought it meant. So it was neat to kind of see their responses to, when the guy buries the man under the ground, and their different information. And so it was really cool to see what they thought about it. But what a fun way to do is, the students don't realize Google Slides or any of the Google applications have a version history. And so you're able to actually kind of go back and get their information. And I do enjoy that about Google, how it automatically saves. Because sometimes when you do have a project, the students like to trick each other. And so this gives them a chance to do it. It gives you a chance to fix it. Students create their own choose your own adventure and share with the class based on topic in class. I actually got this from cultofpedagogy.com. This website is a fantastic resource. She has so many wonderful ideas, so definitely check her out. We have the Choose Your Own Adventure books back in the day, back when I was in elementary school, and you could actually have your students kind of create their own adventures based off of, ELA, or maybe if you're doing social studies, a history lesson, or any of that type of thing. Students can create a short film on a topic and record it using either Screen-O-Matic or Screencastify. And I'll talk a little more about Screencastify later, but they can actually input the video within a Google Slide to be used.
I have a
Students,
couple of questions for you, if you don't mind. One
no.
is, will they get access to this slideshow?
Yes, ma'am. I will send it to you. Yes,
Good, because
ma'am.
they have these awesome links and things, and I know they want to click on those.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you allow student comments? If so, how do you deal with student comments, especially the ones that are off topic?
That's a really good question. Middle schoolers like to be mean to one another. Like they think they're being sarcastic, but they're not. And so a lot of times if I do give them access to comments, like when I do Google Classroom, I don't, because they seem to think it's their version of Facebook. And so we had to nip that in the bud. But when it comes to comments, I give my expectations from the project at the very beginning of what respectful comments are and how we're to use them. And if that's a different, then I immediately do not allow them to have access to it, if that makes sense. My students know the expectations that if they're able to do this type of thing, then they're going to have to do something else. Does that make sense? So that's how I do it. So I'm so sorry, you guys. Hold on.
That's okay, but she says yes, that absolutely makes sense. And Andy in the chat box also said that letting them know that you can view them and that there's a recorder of everything also helps a little.
Yes, Andy is very correct. Hey, Andy. So any more questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, awesome. I really like the questions because it makes me think. All right, some other ways you could use Google Slides. The students could either create a book or a magazine on a variety of topics. And this would just be something that they would more of like very similar to a slideshow. And then students can create their own breakout room experiences. You would be able to use slides and forms for this. But my students really enjoyed breakout rooms. And so I would love to challenge them to create their own breakout rooms. And if you don't know what a breakout room is, there is a version, I guess you could actually go somewhere and you have to solve clues and all this kind of thing. You can do it through Google or a lot of other programs where the students have to, find a certain code or answer questions to get a certain code to be able to unlock things. This is a great either introduction activity or a great review activity for the students. I've had one friend actually do a Google slide breakout experience based off of her expectations for her students to just review when we came back from Christmas break. And so that was a great way for the students to remember, like, hey, this is how I'm supposed to be in the class. This is what she expects. And just, a good little refresher on it. So, all right. So Google Sheets and Forms, once again, called the pedagogy is fantastic. She suggests creating surveys so the students can create and question different topic and provide feedback to one another. A lot of times we don't like to know what our students think about a topic because we may be afraid of what they're going to say. But if you're trying to build an authentic relationship with your students, allowing them to give you feedback from a lesson can actually provide a good way of you understanding, okay, maybe this isn't working for my students, or maybe this is working, maybe I need to do more. So it can kind of help direct your instruction. All of our students don't learn based off of just sitting and listening to lectures. I don't do that. I can't stand it. Like when I'm in a staff meeting, I always have to be moving or I'm coloring or I'm doing something. So I do better when someone engages me. And so maybe you have a student who is more of a kinesthetic learner and they have to be up and moving, and they can share that through a way that may not be as public as them actually saying something to you. Students can create quizzes to review with different material for each other. And then when using it with math, students can use the visual data you get from forms to apply to different word problems in the classroom. Students can use sheets to alphabetize and sort different ideas. And then students can use sheets to organize materials for science experience and create tables. Back when we were in school, I didn't even really know how to use Microsoft Excel until recently. And so Excel and all these different things where the students have to learn how to create calculations and all this kind of thing. This is where we're going more and more towards in the business world. And so this would be a great learning tool for the students. All right, Google Sites. I think this is a really neat way for students. If you are doing a lot of project-based learning, the students can create a site. So maybe you are in civics, you're a high school teacher and you're doing civics, and you're having the students, they have decided to promote awareness of a campaign or of something. You could actually have the students create a site together to promote their project or a business, and having them be able to do that kind of gives them a way to learn how to do web design. And what's really neat about that is the students, it's more of a safe space, and so the students can't actually publish it unless you have given permission to it, because the Google has a setting. And so there's also Weebly and different options, but I like Google Slides because it's can meet in a safe space. Students can create study guides and notes for different assignments, so very similar to before, but you could actually have just a Google slide based off of one particular area. For example, when I was gone to New York for our Google Innovator, one of my classes, my 7th grade, we were talking about Plot, and all of their resources for their different activities were on a Google site. And so they knew specifically where to go and how to get all their information. And so the students could also do that. And then sites can teach students how to create something on the web. And this, like I mentioned before, may be a potential job skill. A lot of times the students are learning things that we have not even thought about the jobs. Back in, if you had told me maybe 10, 13 years ago when I was still in school at Kentucky, how important computers would be. I knew it was important, but I wouldn't have imagined how much we actually use computers in our classroom now. So this sites can actually teach the students how to create something, which is what we want. All right, so here are some ways to avoid disasters with Google. A lot of times, if you have a lot of students doing on docs, make sure to color code. This will give them who has done what on the documents. Oh no. Sorry guys, I didn't mean to do that yet. And then it can also help you determine who is doing what for performance if you do like a rubric based off of participation. Make sure to share one folder for collecting working on everyone have access with the students. I do enjoy Google because a lot of times you don't have to keep up with papers. I'm really bad about having things stack up to grade. And so Google, I just have to have my Chromebook. Use the revision history to help with editing, especially if your students think that they all of a sudden, like Andy mentioned before, we can see everything. If the students think that they deleted something, we can come back. Add tables to help with collaborations. You can organize things. And then both teachers and students can use the comment feature in all and add thoughts and cheats for revision. And this information was from the techieteacher.net. That's a great resource. She has a ton of tools and information that can be used. All right, here are just some ways. I know I've talked a little bit about as I'm going through some different things. And Elizabeth is getting ahead of me, guys. Docs, when discussing theme, I had my students choose a color on one doc and identify at least 2 themes from watching different movie trailers. We compared, we were talking about Edgar Allan Poe and talking about setting, and we compared the setting in the Addams Family, the new cartoon movie, to the setting in Monsters House, and how the setting can be really creepy. And the students were able to kind of give me theme from that. And, theme is a very broad topic for students, and so sometimes they have to really think about it. I talked about this earlier with slides for Edgar Allan Poe. I did it also for The Raven and the Telltale Heart. And so the students were able to break it down into stanzas. And then sheets and forms, like I said earlier, create their own breakout room experiences for each other to enjoy, review various learning literature topics. All right, here are some other tools to use in the classroom, not just Google Classroom or Google. And I'll talk a little bit about each of these. Padlet, Nearpod, GymKit, Kahoot, Flipgrid, Pear Deck, Socrative, Poplet, Screencastify, and Minecraft. All right, so I'm just going to briefly talk about these. When I submit this presentation to Desiree, I will provide the actual link to them. Padlet to me is very similar to the Post-it notes on the board. You can just post it, you post a question, and the students can just do a quick sentence or even a few words. It's a great way to get a quick and easy assessment. You can get 3 free, I believe, a month, and so it's really great. I like to use it, especially if you're doing professional development for other teachers. You can kind of just get a quick response. Nearpod is one of my absolute favorite tools that we use. There's a free version. My school actually bought the school version, and so it makes your information, makes your slideshows a lot more interactive, and it has a lot of engaging tools such as a quiz, time to climb. It's a review game. The kids really get into it because they climb up a mountain or their little avatars do. Nearpod also has a ton of lessons that you can use, and it has several different other options that you can use for field trips and visual and virtual things. So that's something definitely to check out. But there is a free version, and free is always really good. And I also recently, based off of a friend, discovered GymKit. GymKit, if you've never done it, you can do it for free. It's very similar to Kahoot. It is really fun. The students can compete against each other based off of the topic, and they use money. They can block each other from preventing each other to do something. Back on Halloween, they did zombies versus humans, so the kids were able to team up with one another and see who won. A lot of times my zombies won. So GymKit, there is a paid version, but there's also a free version, and the free version is really fun to use as well. And it has several different quizzes already made. Kahoot, you can create your own quizzes. The students are very familiar with this, so a lot of times they can do it by themselves or complete in teams. It is more of a very simple, hey, let's see who can do it and who's got it. And there's also some fun ones such as Disney trivia or knowledge. All right, Flipgrid. Flipgrid is another one of my absolute favorites. Flipgrid is a tool that it's free. It is absolutely free. I believe Microsoft acquired it maybe last year or the year before and made it free for students and teachers. And this is a way that you can actually have the students record, very similar to, I just can't express to you how great it is for students with special needs or students with, disabilities. A lot of times my kids can't write, or they struggle with getting their ideas on paper. And so when I'm able to pose a question to them and they're able to respond to me, you are able to do a video clip from like 30 seconds to 5 minutes based off of their response. And my students can actually share their thoughts. And it's in a safe space where only I have access, and I'm able to, control if the students comment to one another. It's this awesome tool, and it's something the kids get to take selfies afterwards. There's a ton of resources on there. It's definitely something worth to check out. Like I said, Flipgrid is, if you don't take anything away from this, please go check out Flipgrid. It's fantastic, and I definitely use it. I teach a class for one of our local universities, and I actually use it with some of my students to have them respond to each other because it's an online class, and so they don't see each other. All right, Pear Deck. Pear Deck is another version it's not another version, but it's very similar to Nearpod. Both Nearpod and Pear Deck you can use within Google Slides and PowerPoint. Pear Deck has a lot of great ways to get interactive feedback from your students. It has some very cool templates, and so that's something also to check out. All right, Socrative, this is an application where teachers can create assessments and you can get feedback from students. It's also like Edulastic. Edulastic, and I'll provide that link later, is also a tool that there's a free version and you can get some great data from your students. Poplet is very neat because it looks like a thinking map that's huge. It allows the students to visualize ideas and brainstorm and create things together. It would be really cool if you're trying to figure out if the students understand different topics and have them kind of sort their ideas out. It's also very similar to a graphic organizer. Screencastify is also one of my favorites. Students can record lessons and information via their laptops, Chromebooks, and if you have the paid version, I think the free version might have some of this too. I have the paid one. They can learn how to edit and create different presentations. Screencastify is also great if you're going to be absent. You can record what you want your sub to do, and the students can see your face and that they can know the expectations. All right, Minecraft. Minecraft coding is a coding activity that helps build teamwork and community. This is one that I'm trying to get more into because I'm trying to learn more about coding and how that can be. Coding is definitely one of those topics that the students are definitely going to be using more and more in our future. And then just some other ones, other tools and other thoughts. Powtoons is a way that they can create presentations using Skype to communicate with each other. Prezi is another presentation application for them. PowerPoint not good old Microsoft Office. And then WeVideo is really great because there are free versions. And I know there's more applications than just WeVideo, but that's one I've had experience with. It has a green screen tool that's even for free that you can learn to kind of manipulate and create different things. So, and that's kind of neat for the students to see. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit because we are talking about collaboration with students. This is really hits my heart, collaboration with other teachers. So I'm just going to kind of talk about this briefly. Co-teaching is when two or more educators share a classroom and provide instruction to a group of students. And so if the students are collaborating in the classroom, teachers should be able to collaborate with each other. Or at least that's the hope. Imagine if you connected better with a student than another teacher, you might actually get the student to understand the material. Collaboration can be co-teaching or even just planning together. It makes the classroom that much more engaging. All right, here are some ways that you can collaborate with other teachers. And this is also great if you are a gen ed teacher and you work with a special ed teacher in the inclusion classroom. Google Calendar can help you with that. So you can share a calendar, you can schedule meetings, send reminders, and a lot of times as a SPED teacher, we have to do IP meetings, and so it's great to be able to set a reminder for a meeting or invite a teacher to a meeting. And then you even have a task, which I think you can use with Google Keep, and kind of keep maybe like a running list of things that need to happen in the classroom. All right, let's keep on going. Are there any other questions right now? Okay.
Ma'am, but people are putting their favorite tools in the chat. So I just want to invite everyone to make sure that you are watching the chat. So if you have your toolbar at the bottom, you just scroll over. Sometimes you have to click on more and you'll see chat. So definitely put your questions in the chat, put your favorite tools. A lot of people are talking about Screencastify going for free. I think you get 5 minutes for free now, but you get all the tools for free. So thank you for bringing.
Oh, nice.
They were saying they love GimKit. They're just amening everything that you are saying. Everyone is loving it. Keep going.
Okay, great. That's awesome that all the tools are for free. That's actually why I bought the Pro Kit and have more than 5 minutes, but that's great. All right, so sharing calendars. All right, here's the big note. Calendars cannot be shared using the calendar app on phone and tablet. you actually have to do this on a Chromebook or a computer. So you click the three dots next to the calendar you want to share. So if you are going to be creating something with your co-teacher or whoever, this collaboration can even be between a teacher and a paraprofessional. And so you just want to make sure that everybody's on the same place. You can share, so you choose settings and share. You can share with specific people or email groups. You can also adjust the permission so your counterpart has permission to edit. And then you can set up notifications. You can set an email for when events are created, changed, or deleted. So that's important. All right, another thing that's great for collaboration, and this can be with students also, Google Classroom. In discussion with a couple of coworkers, we have just been talking about how, Google Classroom is great. So Google Classroom allows me to keep everything in one place, and the students are able to keep everything together. I can plan and share things even when I'm absent. I know that that's important for teachers because you want consistency for your student. And then just from a perspective, this is my opinion. I'm able to write and comment on all students. I can make assignments, etc. Makes co-planning a lot easier. And it shows the students that teachers are all on the same page. A lot of times when you have collaboration in the classroom, if you have a gen ed teacher who is very, not always alpha, but is very, this is my classroom, the sped teacher can be considered an extra body or like the teacher's helper. You never want the extra person in your classroom to feel like they're not equal to you. And that includes paraprofessionals, because paraprofessionals are very similar to teachers. They just don't get paid. But there's also a reason that special ed teachers in the classroom, and that's to provide individualized instruction to help other students. And the sped teacher works with all of the students. And so it's important that the students realize that you guys work together and that you're not just separate. If that makes any sense. You always want to make sure that everybody is equal in the classroom. And you don't want the kids to play you off of each other either. All right, so adding a co-teacher to the classroom, having a co-teacher in the classroom, you can determine who is responsible for which activity. And this actually kind of goes with my Google Innovator project, the collaborative prenup, which when I show you my website at the end, hopefully there'll be some more information about that. But it is important that if you are going to collaborate just like the students, who is going to do what activity, it's very important that everybody has their own activities and their responsibilities so that everything gets done in a timely manner. Okay. You can also use forums and breakouts for I think my slides got a little confused, and that's okay. But we'll talk a little bit about forums and breakouts. This should have been a couple slides ago, but you gotta love technology. So forums in Google can be used for a variety of reasons: quizzes, exit ticket, even getting student input, like I said earlier. But you can share this with teachers. One teacher can create the form, and then the other teacher can present it. You can just make it work for you. Breakouts are hidden in Google, or like I said earlier, they're very similar to WebQuest, but students have to solve puzzles. Sorry, guys. Or find items and pictures. You can work together to create the breakouts. This would have teachers working together, which would be great. All right, so I've given you some great tools. We've talked about, how collaboration can happen in the classroom. But the main important thing is that we know that all of our kids are not going to be on the same level. There has to be differentiation in the classroom. And so differentiation can
Jessica,
happen.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Before you start with this, we do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to start with brand new ELA teachers who already feel overwhelmed. Where do you suggest I begin with new teachers?
For like Google or just in general?
In general.
If I was in general, okay, that's a really good question. I think it's important for brand new ELA teachers to, what you need to do is to get a copy of your state standards, and you have to kind of sit down and figure out what you're going to teach over the course of the year. And then if you say, hopefully you have someone that you can, like in my school situation, there's teachers for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I'm fortunate because I do all 3 grades. I'm able to kind of talk to each of the teachers and being like, hey, what is the plan? Like, what are we teaching? So I make sure I'm on the same, I guess, growth as they are going, or the same progression throughout the year. But it's one of those things that you have to kind of sit and talk to a fellow ELA teacher saying, hey, what are the things that we need to work on? What are some of the strengths that the students have? You could also, if you're just starting out in your classroom, you could also do like a reading inventory on your students to kind of see what they like to read, what they feel they're good at, what they feel they need to work on. If you're able to have the students reflect, it can help you to kind of drive your instruction. And also another thing that I would suggest, if you're brand new to ELA, if you decide to do writing, like if you do teach writing, one of the greatest things that I've noticed that I learned how to do is when I sit down and conference with a student, and not just grade their paper, but if I actually sit down and kind of review a paper with the student, they can kind of tell me where they're thinking. And I can understand maybe how they didn't get the wording correct, or what their main idea was, but it didn't progress into the paper, if that makes sense. ELAs are really hard. It's not like math, where math has a progression. Like you start, with addition all the way to division. ELA, there's such a huge topic, and you hope that you're able to build on different subjects. But it's one of those things that you definitely have to use your other teachers for. I hope that answers your question, or that might have just opened up a whole bunch of more cans, if that makes sense.
So the follow-up question is also, with the tools that you shared today, where would you start with new teachers? What would be like your first tool?
The very first tool that I would do for new teachers would be Flipgrid. Flipgrid is very user-friendly. It's something that your students will love because they can respond to you, and it's very easy to do. Actually, on my website or on my blog, I have a tutorial on like how to do Flipgrid. I'm sure there are definitely other tutorials, but it's very, very easy to use and very, very user friendly. And if you have students who are non-readers, if they're able to, like I said before, verbalize their thoughts, you can kind of get where they're going, even if they can't read or write what they're thinking. A lot of times our kids love to be read to. And so if you have students who are in kindergarten and first grade who are definitely not reading to where they need to be, this can be a great way to have them to respond. And it also, if you decide, I've seen on Twitter before where like a principal did a Flipgrid where she read a story at night and the students responded to it. It kind of like, I guess, tell a story at night, that it can build community with your kids, which is definitely what you want. So Flipgrid would definitely be my top choice of a tool to use for new teachers.
Thank you. And she said that she has some of these resources on her website. Guys, if you sign in, I'm pasting the link again in the chat box. If you sign in, you'll get a copy of this presentation. You'll get a certificate. And on the front page of this presentation, she has her website, her blog. So I just wanted to let you know.
Yes, I also, I'll send to you, Ms. Desiree, when we finish. Also, I do I have a friend that we do like presentations together, and I'll also share that blog because there's some definitely cool tools and suggestions on there that we share within our district. So those are definitely some good questions. So But speaking with that, differentiation, like I was saying, using Google to assign different assignments based on their needs from previously acquired data. We know, and this would be great for new teachers, data is king. I don't care if you can tell me a kid can do something. If I don't have data for it, I'm not going to believe you. And that's the way a parent will be. I've sat in IEP meetings before where teachers have been, well, the student can do blah, blah, blah. And then the parent looks at the teacher and says, where's my data? And the teacher and a parent's going to call you out on it. And just coming from the SPED perspective, an IEP is a legal document. We have to provide data for our teachers or for the parents. We have to provide data to prove that they are making goals, that they're meeting their needs, that they're progressing in the grades, not just for regular students. So data is definitely king. So if you're able to get some information from your students, you can get different assignments based off of their levels to provide to them. And Google is a great way to do that because you can send, based off of Google Classroom, you can send just different activities to certain students in a class. So using Google Classroom to get work samples for IEPs and to keep communication with your caseload for SPED teachers is key, is great. This provides opportunities to get work samples in a timely fashion, which is something that's really important for IEPs, like I mentioned before. The biggest thing about differentiation is that we have all these tools and they're great, but you have to make them work for you. They're not meant to take place of a teacher in a classroom, but they're there to help enhance your students' learning and to help enhance your teaching, if that makes sense. All right, here's some more extra resources, places to check out, and I'll share some more when I send my presentation to Ms. Desiree. But these are some great resources. Like I said before, practice.learningaccelerator.org is a great resource. Ditch that textbook. Matt Miller is fantastic. He has several books that are out that are great resources and information. Calls of Pedagogy, as I've mentioned before, she's great. And then TechieTeacher.net has some great resources. All right, this is my website. It's full of different ideas and blog posts. I would love to connect with you. It has changed. It doesn't look directly like that. I switched from Weebly to Google Sites because Google Sites is a little easier for me to understand how to use than Weebly. But this is my website and I would love to, and it's also a work in progress, so I would love to get some feedback on that if you wouldn't mind. And this is information. This is my email. This is my personal email. I respond to that pretty quick. And then on Twitter, I'm Kentucky Girl in Alabama because I live in Alabama and I'm a Kentucky fan. And I got that Twitter name before I ever thought about doing education Twitter. But I definitely put a plug in there for Twitter. Building your PLN is fantastic. Yes, ma'am. And that is it.